So, welcome to another edition of Author Speak on the Real Talk with Real People Network. I am Caroline Bethea-Jones, author, publisher, playwright, and I'm here with my co-host, author Renee Marshall McKinley. And our guest tonight is the fabulous Tarana Peaches. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Tarana. She's a screenwriter, producer, and former science teacher turned homeschooling mom. She cleverly blends her classroom experience with a passion for storytelling in her debut children's story, Wacky Zacky Bugs Out. Inspired during a family camping trip where her eldest son expressed his love for camping alongside his unequivocal dislike for bugs. This mix of enthusiasm and aversion gave birth to the lively, imaginative, and humorous adventures of Zacky, with more wacky stories on the horizon. She was born in Toronto, but now resides in New Jersey with her husband Ron and their three wacky Zackies. Renee and I welcome her to our show. So welcome, Tarana. Hi, how are you today?
Fantastic. I'm so excited to be here. I'm good.
Okay, we are so excited to have you here. So we want to delve right in so you can start talking about yourself and talking about your book. So why don't we start by you telling us about your book?
So, Wacky Zacky Bugs Out, my debut children's book. Obviously, this is something brand new. Before I was writing screenplays and just, other types of scripts. And I honestly never believed that I could write a children's story. When I had my first son, who is now 10, you're reading stories to your children all the time. And I could do this. And then I came up with this brilliant idea that I was going to do like the opposite version of Goodnight Moon. So it's like good morning, whatever. Nobody has time to be sitting down, snuggle with a book and a baby there's so much. It was such a silly idea that I'm like, yeah, no, this is not for everybody. So, fast forward, it's been almost 10 years later where I finally feel like, wait a second, I can do this. And, here comes Wacky Zacky Bugs Out. And I must say, I am I am quite impressed with what
We love that.
pull off, being very honest. I'm like, wow, I can be honest with myself when I'm like, that was a silly idea, this whole
Yeah.
good morning sun. But no, this I'm super excited about. And the reception has been amazing, which has helped confirm for me that, I got something good here.
Things
Okay.
there.
All right. That was good. That was good. And you said something. You said that you were used to writing screenwriting. So is that how you started? Is that where your writing started?
So my writing started with songs. So songs was the first thing. And I noticed that my songwriting, because I sang as well, but my songwriting felt very storytelling-ish, almost like country music. Like, they're always telling a story. So, but it wasn't country, but it just had like a storytelling feel. And so it made me think like, oh, I wonder if I could do like a bigger story. And so I wrote a musical. So a musical, that was the first script that I ever wrote. And my husband and I produced it. I wrote it and I starred in it. I'm like, you know what? I would love to start a musical. So I'm gonna write one. I could either go to auditions and wait for somebody to give me an opportunity, or I could go out there and make my own. So, I wrote this musical that, like I said, my husband and I produced it, and it was just a 1 day event. We wanted it to be longer, but we just didn't know half the things that we know now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So had we known then what we know now, we wouldn't have made it a 1 day event. We would have planned to have, at the very least 2 days, because we did sell out the first day, but then we had nothing, nothing for it. So I went
Yeah.
back to the drawing board. How can I make this musical better? And all of the things that it would have taken to make it better had me thinking maybe writing a film might be easier. So here I am hopping from medium to medium. And every time we're writers, but every medium is like you have to learn something new, right? Like, so just because you can draw doesn't mean you're an illustrator or you're a sculptor, you're an artist, but you still have to learn that medium. So now I got into the world of screenplays and started writing. I wrote a series called Teacher Problems that I was trying very, very hard to push, but I don't really know anybody in the industry. I just knew that I had something good. And I would say the biggest compliment slash slap in the face would be Abbott Elementary because fast forward years later, I'm watching my concept and it's so good, but I'm watching, yeah, my concept. So one thing I love about, not to jump around, but one thing I love about being an author, you're not really waiting for opportunities. I think that's more my speed. I need to be in spaces where I'm not like, here, give me a chance, here, give me a chance. I need to be in spaces where I can really show you what I have and you can pay for it or not. you know, this is what it is. So yeah, so from scripts, now I'm in the author world, in the publishing.
I was pointing this way because you said you didn't have a lot of teachers in your circle. I was pointing at Caroline.
Well, no, so
she's in an educational space.
oh, so actually, when I was saying I didn't have the circle, I meant more like the Hollywood,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but it's funny that you mentioned that, Renee, because I had this moment one day where I was just really mad. I was looking at my circle and I'm like, everybody's a teacher. Like, I have any producer friends.
Right.
But I remember getting so mad at all of my teachers. I was like, why is everybody a teacher? And now that I'm writing a children's book, I'm like, hey, y'all. So,
Yes, exactly.
So glad you're my friend, teacher.
yeah, I forget what I was saying before. Can you see if I can come to your school and read my book? Now being in this teacher network is really working for me.
Yes.
So,
But I'm
yeah.
gonna tell you something. There are a lot of educators who have other avenues of experience. I've only been in education for the last 10 years, right? So I'm not even a teacher. I'm a secretary. But I'm not a teacher in the public schools
Right.
system, but I do teach. I've been teaching for over 30 years.
Mhm.
But what I've learned is that every teacher or educator that I've spoken to has a passion outside of teaching. So
Oh,
if you
that-
ask around, you would probably find a lot of authors who are teachers, a lot of um,
yes.
playwrights and songwriters who are teachers. So
Hmm. Hmm.
that's what
You
I.
do kind of have to ask though, right?
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's a separate world that we don't always talk about it. But I have had coworkers who produce their own films, who perform, on the weekends, have live shows. So you're absolutely right. I do had coworkers who had other passions and pursuits and stuff like that. So
So I just want to circle back for a second. When you created and produced your body of work, was that in Canada or was that here in the States?
that was here. So it wasn't a Broadway play, but it was
Uh-huh.
physically on Broadway.
Yes, no, yes.
So yeah, it was here on at Symphony Space on Broadway 95th. And yeah, it was a one-day event and the reception was good. People were like, "Oh, I have somebody who I want to see this. Is it playing tomorrow?"
Right.
Thing to have to be like, "Dad, I didn't think that far." So yeah, but it was here. Everything I've done creatively has been here.
All right. Did you mention the name of your play? What was the name of it?
I mean, in hindsight, the name is not really that good, but it was called Milk Cart and Molly. Milk
Okay.
Cart. Yeah.
I mean,
In hindsight, I'm like,
you did.
I'm not sure, but it was fun. It was an R&B musical, so I wanted to, see what it like. Usually, musicals have a certain sound, in my opinion, and I just wanted to see what it would be like to have a musical that had more,
Mm.
like R&B. So
And
Yeah.
you wrote all the songs yourself, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
Okay. I love it because Renee, you will be my witness. Every single author that we've had on, we've had so much in common with.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Like
And
I'm a songwriter. I started
right.
as a songwriter. I started as a songwriter. And then I started writing poetry, and then I started writing short stories. I wrote plays. I actually had a play out on in New York. It was short lived, also like you. It was called Women on the Edge. Um,
Mm.
we wrote all the music to it ourselves.
Oh, nice.
It's our own music. So I'm listening to you as I listen to all the rest of the authors who come on here. And I'm like, oh my God, we creative people are in a class all by ourselves.
Yes.
Real.
So on my screen, I can see you two side by side, and I'm like this. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
We are in a class all by ourselves. So, okay,
Amazing.
so I'm gonna ask you.
Hmm?
I'm gonna choose one of these questions from here. Okay, so this is one I think that Renee would appreciate. So, how do you balance a writing career with other aspects of your life, such as your family and your work? Because that seems to be where I'm having the most trouble trying to balance my job, my family. Taking care of still. My children are all gone, but my husband is like my second child. You know. So I'm having myself personally having issues with balancing the whole writing thing, the whole career thing, doing everything else. So how do you do it?
Well, for starters, recognize that I need help. And I don't have a problem trying to get help because I have a 10-year-old son, 8-year-old son, a 22-month-year-old son, and I have a baby girl on the way due in less than 4 weeks, so 3.5 weeks. I need
Congratulations.
help. Thank you.
Congratulations.
So, and I homeschool them, and it's with the age gap between my two oldest and my younger, it's it's easy to not easy, but easier to sit down with the two older boys, but the young one has, he's a toddler. He has needs and things like that as well. So having help, we did get an au pair who only speaks Spanish to the boys. So that's helping us with like the Spanish aspect, helping our children to be bilingual. But she also helps me with the boys, even though I am home, she is
Mhm.
helping me with them as I am navigating the whole homeschooling. And on top of that, because I am home, it does also give me time to focus on writing, to focus on, just how am I going to get the book out there? Just
Right.
the non-creative stuff
Yes, yes, we
that,
get it.
that we don't want to do, but
We don't want to do. That's
Yes,
right.
somebody's got to do it.
somebody's
Yes.
got to do it. And so it gives me more time to focus on those things. So that's for me, I know I need the help and
Yes.
I get it.
And you're not
Okay.
big ask, yeah.
Very good answer, and we should take your advice. At least I know
Mhm.
we should. Renee, you want to throw a question in there?
Yeah, let's see. Yes, because I always have questions. They always just pop up. So when I when I met you, it was at a book fair.
Yes.
Right. And I saw that you had written a children's book. And I was like wondering, I said, oh, were the children the inspiration? So tell us a little backstory about the book. Was it because of your children? Is that what prompted the story? Or did you already have that story in mind before you started?
So my children definitely, specifically my oldest son, did inspire the story. So we were on a camping trip. We all love the outdoors. We all love camping, all that good stuff. But there was just one day, the bugs were relentless. Like it was ridiculous. And my oldest was just like, I really love camping, but I hate bugs. Like, and then took it a step further, like, why do we even have bugs?
Yes.
And the science teacher in me knows the answer.
Right,
I know
right.
why bugs are important. And so
Yes.
as I'm telling him, I'm like, there's probably a lot of other kids asking the same question. I could turn this into a children's story. But
Wow.
when I thought that, I said like it took a while before I actually pursued it. And I
Yes.
think what made me finally pursue it was when I had my youngest son. I had a C-section, I couldn't move, and that doesn't stop creativity.
That's
I'm
right.
Right. So at that point, I'm like, what can I do from this bed?
Yes. Wow.
So, we came up with this idea. We were going to do it as a homeschooling project. We were all going to write a book together. And so that was going to be the topic. They were going to do research. We were going to create this story. But as we got started, I'm like, y'all ain't taking this seriously. And I'm thinking on $1 million right now. So I just basically booted them out of the project. I was
Right.
like, we'll finish this on my own. And you guys, so they're the ones that I'm always bound. How does this sound? So,
Yes.
very, very much been a part of the journey.
Right.
But I knew if I wanted this to be where it is, they had to go do something else. So, so my oldest son inspired the story. And then the illustration of Zacky looks like my second son.
Yeah.
So I took the illustrator, his picture, and so he drew someone that looks like him.
Okay.
And then my youngest son, his middle name is Zachariah. So that's where I got the Zacky from. So I got all the boys in there.
Right. Right.
Got all my Wacky Zackies in there.
Oh, wow. That's
So
great.
you have all boys. So
For
do.
now.
For now.
wow. So you're hoping that this one that's gonna be here in about 3 weeks is gonna be a girl?
So I already know it's a girl. And
See that? Wait, Caroline, do you see the room that she's in?
the funny thing is, this is for me. This is my office. I love pink, but I love having boys. I find boys to be incredibly easy.
Yeah.
And I actually thought we were going to have 4 boys.
Yeah.
So when I found out that we were having a girl, I was really surprised.
Okay.
It has been a journey, just accepting it and preparing myself because I know boys. Like at this point, I got boys, everything. So this is a new adventure for me.
It's gonna be nice having another girl.
Hope so.
When I say another girl, I mean because you were the only girl in that house.
Right.
So having another girl in the house is going to be amazing.
But what's great about that is now you're going to have a different spin on a book that you're going to create.
Yes.
I very possible. 'Cause I'm sure she's going to inspire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Because
we're excited. We're excited, but we're
different. Yeah. Girls bring a different energy. I have 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl, and they are completely different children.
Yeah.
Completely. They both kept me busy running, but completely different. Completely different.
Different adventures, right?
I'm sorry?
Different adventures for each?
Different adventures. Yes. Very different. And then she's going to be your bestie because my daughter, now my son is my bestie. He was my first. I love him. He's my bestie. But my daughter is my bestie.
And I tell you, my daughter is my bestie too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I hope so.
You're gonna love her up too.
Yes. So, okay. So let me ask another question.
Because I was ready.
Okay. So we kind of said something about this, but how do you handle writer's block? Or moments when your creativity is a little bit slow or you're thinking, oh, maybe I can't really, do what I need to do.
So because I have so much going on otherwise, it's okay for me to walk away from this for a bit until inspiration comes back. My kids keep me much busier than I want to be.
Yes.
Okay.
So if I have writer's block, I think what's really frustrating is when I don't have writer's block and I have to go to soccer games and soccer practice. Yeah, that is because I just want to sit home and write. I can get very monsterish, like I don't want to do this soccer thing anymore. But if I have a little bit of writer block, it's like, all right, I'll take them to practice. I'll go for a walk. I'll take them to go to this tournament or whatever. So yeah, I'm not bothered by writer's block. It doesn't, and even if it happens, it doesn't last for long. So
with that, since you are always on the go, I get it. We get it. We're moms and grandmoms. Do you only write let's just say at the computer, or do you carry a notebook, or do you use your telephone? Like, what are the tools or tricks that you use to help you get those notes down when you cannot, when you have those other obligations?
So I don't know how other people do it, but I am has to be a computer person. So I bring my computer with me. And when I don't bring my computer and find myself having downtime, I get really mad at myself.
Oh,
Writing. So yeah, I do. And it's funny. So now a lot of times people are like, when I say people, I mean my husband and my kids are like, bring your laptop because you might have some downtime.
right.
But yeah, I don't write manually. And I don't know how people write whole stories on their phone.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, but I need a keyboard. I need a keyboard.
It's so funny that you said that because a long, long time ago when I was writing, I did everything by paper. And then when I, started doing everything on computer, I had the computer. But I'm back to carrying my notebook with me. I was just telling my husband when I got home today that I wrote an entire short story while I was at work today.
Manually with a pen. Oh
With a
my
pen. Now, the only bad thing about that, and this is the part I hate, is that I'm gonna have to type all of this.
all of it. You're gonna have to transcribe that whole thing.
I'm gonna have to transcribe the whole thing. But you know what I do have? I have that talk
Talk the type.
yeah. So I really haven't used it in a long time because I haven't really written like that in a long time. But I have to now use it again because it looks like carrying a notebook is easier than carrying a computer for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I am writing everything down. So I think I'm gonna have to go back to doing the text to speech because I'm gonna need to speak it into existence.
And for me, when I wrote my book, my debut book, I was computer the whole time. But I had a task from Caroline, and I could only use it on my phone. I could only type. We had to write a short story, and I didn't have time while I was working to do that, and I couldn't talk to type on my phone. So as I was working, I had to text what I was writing in my message.
Oh my goodness.
So yes, there is a will, there is a way.
Yes.
Yes, there's a will, there's a way. So I found that I'm using all the things, all the ways to be able to,
When
when I
you
get
are creative, you do use all the things.
to use all the things.
So, Sharana, my next question to you is: which authors do you draw inspiration from?
I'm embarrassed to admit that I don't think I have sat down and read a novel in a long time. Like, I'm really trying to think, like, what's the last book you read? I have read so many children's books. We have way too many. And there's some authors, I mean, if you want to hear children's authors, then Aaron Blabey, that's, I think he did Pig the Pug, all those books. My kids read his Bad Guys book. So the stories that I read to them a lot,
Yeah.
I noticed that I probably draw inspiration from some of those. I love to laugh. So I love the funny ones, the ones that rhyme. And so, like I said, with Pig the Pug, that's a good example. Trying to think of who else. We watch a lot of, or read a lot of rather, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, those type of,
Yeah.
So right now my reading is literally, if it's not the Bible, it is children's book.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last
But
novel.
that's okay because you could be inspired by the Bible, and
Absolutely.
just so you'll know, I am also a Bible girl. That's where I got that's where my degrees are. I am my degrees are in theology, so I am a Bible girl. I love to read the stories in the Bible. So you can be inspired by Bible stories, and I love that you are inspired by authors who write children's books because that's where your love is right now.
Yeah.
Right. And
I would not expect you to be inspired by a novel when you're reading when your focus is on children's books. So that's great.
Yeah.
so now so two interesting things about what you're saying. One, I do have a new Wacky Zacky book that I'm releasing this spring.
Okay.
I maybe have one more Wacky Zacky book in me right now, but my goal is actually to write novels.
Okay.
So I do want to start writing because once you get into this author thing, you're like, why not, right? So what I'm thinking about is a screenplay that I wrote that I've never been able to produce. Again, you're trying to get people to read it, and why would they read my script? They don't know me. They don't know
Right.
anything about me. So I can respect that. But I'm like, wait, if this were a novel, I could get it into more hands and
Yeah.
I have now more autonomy over, the book. So my goal is I have actually already started working on a novel, but then even going back to inspiration from the Bible, there are some stories that I read in the Bible and a whole movie is playing
Yes.
out before
Love it.
my eyes.
Yes,
Love
Yeah.
that.
yes.
So I would love to write like a David epic,
Love that. Love that.
yeah, or even Esther.
It's funny you should say that because part of the writing that I do for my ministry is I write I write monologues about the women in the Bible. Like, I'll write a monologue about the woman at the well. So I will give, because right now you only know her as this one thing, but I give her a whole life. She has
Right.
a whole life and I give her a life, so
Yeah.
these are and Eve and stuff like that. But it's wonderful. The stories in the Bible are amazing. And
Yeah.
and they
I
certainly
love that woman in the well. A woman at the well idea because just off of that one conversation she had with Jesus, willing
Mm,
to let your imagination go
yes.
wherever you want to, you could tell about all those husbands.
that's
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We're gonna give her a whole life.
Because she has lived. She has
Yeah,
lived.
she did. So,
Absolutely.
oh, that's awesome. I love that. Love that.
So when you said you gave the illustrator a picture of your son, a picture of your oldest son, and and it looks like your middle son.
Yeah.
So did you find it hard to find an illustrator to meet your needs, your specifications? Because I hear
So
people saying it's hard to find illustrators for their children's books.
I think the illustrator is the hardest thing to find. And I think that if you find one too quickly, it
Mm-hmm.
may not work out for you the way that you're hoping it will.
Mm-hmm.
Really do have to vet them. Like you really have to look at what else they've done. A lot of times I'll have like authors say like, "Oh, I have a friend who draws really well." But is she an illustrator? Is he an illustrator? Because again, it's a totally different medium. So, or they'll tell me like they found someone off of Fiverr, and
Mm-hmm.
um, for me, these are like hard no's.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I did the process of finding an illustrator was very difficult,
Okay.
but the one that I did end up finding, I am so sure this was God. I'm so
Always
sure.
is. Uh-huh.
Yes, exactly. So he really captured what it is that I wanted. I saw so many other wonderful illustrators, but I wanted something that looked like it could be a cartoon, just so people could see this as potentially being an animated series.
Oh, I
And
love
yeah, and I think he captured that extremely well. So yeah, it's the biggest decision that you're going to make as a children's book author, but it's the most important. So it does take some time.
Yes, and I'm finding that it's very hard to find an illustrator. Renee, I hope you're taking notes. Um,
No.
Say that, Renee, because as a new author, I'm always trying to stretch her. As a new author, and creativity flows from everywhere, so you don't have to be stuck on one thing, Renee. We
That's why I said no. I knew she was going to jump over to this. We have this thing going. I knew where she was going, and I knew I going to say no right now.
No, I just like to stretch people, but normally, and we've had a lot of authors on here,
Yes, yes.
and what you find is that the creativity is big,
It,
and this is why I love it because we're talking about people. we just met and we find all, and we look at all the things we have in common. We're writing songs, we're
So,
writing
yes.
um,
Right.
um,
The
movies
plays, the script. Yes.
and
Yes.
all this stuff because this is what creatives have in common.
Yes.
It doesn't take, if you can't find one medium, you move to another because that those creative juices flow,
Yeah.
Yes.
and so they have to go somewhere. So I'm just really just telling you not to stymie yourself.
Yes.
Allow your creative juices to flow in many directions. Don't let
Let me just tell you. Let
don't
me
let
just.
people tell you to stay in your lane. There is no lane when it comes to creative people.
This is why she's saying this to me. So my one and only, but no, actually, I have two. I wrote a complete book by myself, and then I contribute to another book. But the books, the two that I wrote, had to be factual to me. And I told Caroline that I find it hard to be so creative. If it's not true, it's hard for me to look in my mind, close my eyes and say, oh, I see this person doing XYZ. Now, I do have other creative mediums because I have a bath and body care company that I have to create and produce and make. So that's creativity there as well. And now I'm doing this acting thing. So there's creativity there as well. But for writing, I never saw myself as a author of books. I saw myself saying, oh, yes, I can write a book. People always say, oh, there's one book inside of you. And I said, okay, I wrote that book. So I'm good. But Caroline won't let me stay there. She won't let me stay.
No.
Can I add two things though to what you're saying? I heard somebody say any story worth telling is worth embellishing. And I think sometimes we get really stuck on, but that's not what happened. It's okay.
Yeah.
Venture out. Like allow your mind to go
Yes.
as far as it could possibly go,
Yeah.
even if it sounds wild, and then reel it back as
Mm.
much as you. But I would definitely encourage you to really try to just stretch your mind and see how out there you can think about these different scenarios because that's why I think so many movies are based on a true story and not the actual true story because if they tell us the actual true story, it might get boring.
Yes.
So, they embellish where they need to. And even, if Caroline was to tell the story of the woman at the well and told it exactly as we know it in the Bible, that's about a 5-minute film, right? but if she's
But the
willing
story I'm going to tell is going to
I mean, so
Right.
this could be a series, so you definitely have to be willing to just, think outside the box or
Yeah.
whatever, unless you're writing a memoir. But if it's,
Well, and it kind of was. So the book that I wrote, it kind of was, right? About me and my girlfriends. And so it kind of was like a baby memoir. And then the other book was it was, giving advice, sort of. So
okay, so it's more like,
two had to be factual. But Caroline tasked me with something else that and she stretched me to write something outside of something that I would have normally.
we're going to get her there. So
Okay.
I'm going to ask you, Tarana, because I know that when I'm talking about my writing, this question comes up a lot, and I want to ask you, do you remember the first story you ever read and the impact it had on you?
mm,
No?
no, I know I can name stories that have had an impact on me, but the first,
Okay.
are you asking for the first one I ever read or the first one that had an impact?
Well, maybe not the first one you read, but a story that had an impact on you.
Okay.
What story had an impact on you?
Okay. So, I think I can answer both. So the first story is probably Three Little Pigs. Okay. So I'll just get that out there. Probably had an impact. My mom was reading it to me. Eventually I was able to read it to myself. I just love this story. And I think it helped introduce me into helped introduce me to the world of reading, right?
Mhm.
And all that stuff. But there is this book called A Thousand Splendid Suns, and it's from the same author as The Kite Runner. His
Mm.
name is like escaping me right now. I think it's Husseini Khalif. I'm
Yeah, like that. Mm-hmm.
but oh my goodness, the book is amazing. It is so amazing, and I'm not really want to read a book more than once because, like,
Yeah,
it's
once you read it. You know the story. Let's.
right. I think I did read it twice because it was just so good. So I would say that. And I think what I loved about that book was it took me into a world that I knew nothing about. And but it was just still so real, still so vivid,
Yeah.
and just like something that I should know. I felt like I should know this.
Mhm.
Like, this is set, in Afghanistan or in the Middle East, and it seems so far from my reality, but it's not any less human or real, or even though it's fiction, it still just felt very real.
Yeah.
So I would say that book. And also I think I've read, not I think, I've read a few cultural anthropology books in college because they were assigned to us. So
Yes.
that kind of opened my eyes up too, to like, because now these are not fiction.
Hmm.
It opened my eyes up to, again, there are, like, me personally, I love America. I think that this is one of the greatest countries in the world. That's just me.
Yeah.
But I realize that the way that we do things is not the way, it is a way, right? And then what cultural anthropology has shown me is that there are other ways.
Yep.
And they may be good, they may be better, they may not be, whatever.
Hmm.
But it's just nice to see other people doing different things to
Yes.
accomplish the same or similar goals. It's just it's a beautiful thing just to
Yeah.
see all creation type of thing. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
is
those.
beautiful. That is beautiful. And Renee, just for the record, tell me a story that had an impact on you, just for the record.
Okay. So really quickly, and I said to myself, I said, "Oh wow, that's a great." No,
Yeah.
Carolyn asked me that for some reason. So we've been doing it for a while. So for me, I am a reader. I used to be a reader all the time. And so I've read many, 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 many books, but I can't recall the very first book that had an impact on me. But the one that I absolutely love is The Alchemist.
Oh, okay.
That book, now that's a book that I can read over and over and over. And it's about just never giving up. You never know where your treasures are. And you got to keep looking, you got to keep searching, you got to be open to receiving
That's
in order
true.
to get those treasures. And now that name escapes me too, but The Alchemist, if you ever get an opportunity to read it, it is really, really good. And this is not a big book either. I'm sorry?
Coelho? That the author Coelho?
Yeah, yes, yes. Yep.
I'm
Same.
gonna pick that book up and put it on my
Because I
my.
read it too. It is really a good book.
Really a good book.
Everybody who has told me that they've read it has said the
Yes,
same, read it over and over, and it's amazing.
yes.
So
And I
yeah,
don't even know where my copy is now. I need to go
Yeah,
find it because I want to read it again.
definitely put it on your list of readers.
Yes.
For me, what got me reading in the first place and what got me thinking that I could be a writer, I was very, very young. I think I might have been in the fourth grade. And
Hmm.
I read this book. I don't know who the author is right now, but I will never forget the title and I will never forget the book. It's called Soul Brothers and Sister Lou.
Oh.
Um, yeah, Soul Brothers and Sister Lou.
Hmm.
And it was the first novel that I read as a child. And it the story was something that I never would have imagined was in a book. And
Yeah.
it was just it changed my whole life. And it really made me believe that I could be a writer because I wanted to write like that. And
Wow.
so it's that's why I asked the question because I want to know if others felt the same way, if a book just grabbed and touched at them and made them feel like this is what I want to do. So
You know what? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I never thought of being a writer.
me neither.
Never. It was not like it wasn't something that was saying, "Oh my God, I'm going to grow up. I want to be a writer." Or even as a teenager or as a young adult, it was later. And I just said to my girls, I said, my girlfriends, one day I just said, "Oh, let's write a book." It just was like an idea. I always work up the ideas real quick. Something pops in my head, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna do that." But it was never. Writing was never a thing for me. But now, do I think I want to do another one? Yes, I do.
I've been writing since I was like 11. So
Wow.
It's something that I actually really, I didn't think of myself as really being a published author,
Yeah. Yeah.
but writing is something that I always knew that I would always do because I always want to capture a story. This is the reason why I'm so attached to the Bible because of the amazing, fascinating stories that I
Mm-hmm.
was always able to find in the Bible. The Bible
Yeah.
is probably the first book I've ever read, to be honest.
Wow. Wow.
With the little bit of time that we have left, I want to ask you to, what would you like to leave with your audience? What do you want to say to your audience? And not even if it's not even your audience, what do you want to leave as your last words that you want to,
Well,
Shit.
I definitely would want to talk about my new book.
yes,
So,
that.
so I did share about Wacky Zacky Bugs Out, which, again, well, just to tell you what it's about a young innovator who loves the outdoors but hates bugs. So he comes up with a way to rid the world of bugs. And of course, that is not without consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So we go on a scientific journey to, just for him to realize that we actually do need bugs and why we need bugs, why they're important. So, by the end of the story, he learns to appreciate them, to live, I guess, harmoniously, if you will, with bugs. But even though it is a science-based book, I feel like I cleverly hide that.
Mm-hmm.
So, your kids are learning about like the scientific method, at least, being introduced to it without feeling like they're reading,
Yes.
boring nonfiction books. So I'm thinking about people like I love fiction, love fiction. So it's amazing how many, I love watching movies, but like if a movie is named after a person, it might take me a while to just buckle down and watch it because I feel like
Mm.
I'm about to go through a history lesson. But if you give it a name like "What's Love Got to Do with It?" Let's go, like so.
You want to know
I
what, right?
Right, like this, I know it's Tina Turner, but now you got me with this title. So I wanted something where kids could, in an entertaining way, learn about the scientific method and the importance of bugs, mainly the importance of bugs. So with the new book, the new one is called Wacky Zacky Litterbug Zapper. And I'm super excited about this one because I do introduce a new character.
Okay.
It's a little girl. How about that?
You
Before I knew I was having a girl, here I am introducing
manifestation.
her. It's a brand new character. So, and she's so adorable. But so one thing about her though is that she is deaf. And at the beginning of the story, Zaki, he sees a bird with a piece of like tissue stuck in its mouth. And he's like really concerned about the bird because he loves outdoors, he loves nature. He's concerned about the bird. So when he sees her walking by and throwing down litter, he tries to like confront her. He thinks she's ignoring him, but she actually can't,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? So he is upset. He comes up with a new invention that is supposed to change behavior. So now every time somebody litters, sensors go off and they get a zap. So that's the litter bug zapper.
yes, yes.
And it starts to get a bit haywire and immoral, you know.
Yes.
So that he goes on a journey there where he realizes, maybe this wasn't the best idea.
Yeah.
And, basically, there's a full conclusion with the new character, Rose, and a better way to curtail litter. So that's Wacky Zacky, Litterbug Zapper. Like I said, I'm releasing it in the spring and I am
Yay.
excited about it. Yes.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. But I want to tell you that even though your themes are for children, to get children to see certain things, I'm thinking that there's some adults who can learn from that too.
Oh,
Because
good.
we some of these adults need to understand the consequences of things.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you want to rid yourself of something, consequences.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
know, Even with the second one, just because you want to zap somebody because they're doing something that you think is wrong, well, it may not be quite that easy to do, and you might want to look for a better way to do it. So
That's right.
I love it. I love that these themes are teaching lessons not only to the children, but to
Yeah.
the adults who are reading these children's books too.
That's a good point because I never even thought about, I sometimes I feel like it's too late for the adults, but you know what? Maybe it's not. Maybe, maybe it's,
Sometimes, but maybe it's not.
when I see a grown person throw trash
Ooh,
on, oh my goodness, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know that this stuff had to be taught, right? Like, just
It has to be
that's
taught though.
something.
But you
Yeah.
don't know if an adult is going to read this book to their child and realize, I guess
Mm, I
I,
shouldn't be doing that, huh?
I shouldn't be doing that either. So I say that there's always a moral to every
Yeah.
story. I don't, don't really care how the story begins.
Yeah.
I always believe a good story always leaves you with a moral, something that you could think about, something that you could say, maybe.
You,
right.
you know what we didn't ask? So is your book self-published or did you go through a publisher? Or,
It's self,
what was your process? Self-published?
yeah, self-published. Yeah, that
Did,
was, and I actually didn't know like the process to get a publisher.
mm-hmm.
I imagined that it was similar to me trying to pitch a script to somebody, and
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even stomach the thought. I'm like,
Yes.
I understand because trust
Yeah.
me, that's where I am. And, so many books deep. I have self-published every single one of them.
Yeah.
And I really I have no desire I know what I want. I'm gonna, and like, I like what you said before, either you want to read this book or you don't.
that's
Yes.
it. That's
It's
it.
really, that's just really what it comes down to. No gimmicks. This is the
Yeah.
product, what I have. You want to read it or you don't. So,
You
and
go. And that's the cool thing with a children's story. Cause, I go to these events where I have, my little booth or whatever, and I'm
Mhm.
selling books. And some of these kids make me work hard for the sale. I'm like, dang, there's one child, I had to read the whole story to him. I'm like, oh my good. But he bought it. His
yeah,
mom did,
Yes. Yes.
so but she was like, he made you work for that one. I'm like, dang, he did.
right,
But it's good though because it's not for everybody, and that's
Right.
okay, right?
That's
But who it's for, they will see the value in it. They'll buy it. Their kids will love it, and that's great. I'm not trying to sell my book to everybody. I'm just selling it to those who could actually appreciate it, who want this, who see the value of
yeah,
having a young innovator who is Black, who is a
yeah.
boy.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, having more diversity.
yeah,
Um, our stuff. And you know what? I'm saying diversity. Let me stop. Having more Black, children.
Yes.
Yeah, and let me just get straight to it
Very
because
to it. Very
you
to it.
know, yeah, it's not really just diversity for
Right.
me, but I really wanted my kids to have
Representation. Mm-hmm.
yes, quality books with
Yes.
kids that look like them on the
That's
cover,
right. That's
I
right.
totally agree. I
and
totally agree.
and without it being about being Black, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's every day. This is what I do because I'm a human being, and this is what I do.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly. So
absolutely.
I could appreciate the hair books and stuff like I could have really appreciated it when I was younger, you
Yeah.
know, but it's
Right.
okay. I'll take it now.
It's a need for that. It's a need
Yes,
for that.
yes,
It's a need for those Black
absolutely.
books. So it's a need for all of it. But yes, you wrote yours the way that you needed to write it, and then those other people wrote theirs the way that they needed to write it. Because look, we need to educate some people about some things, right?
That's it.
There's a need
So
for all of our creativity.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have lots of books out there, but
Hmm.
it's not for everybody.
That's
But
right.
it's
exactly.
for somebody. There is somebody. I don't know. Um, I will tell you how I felt the first time someone literally wrote me an email saying, "Oh my God, I read this book and I thought you were talking about me."
Wow.
Oh,
Oh, I
Because,
can see that. I can
because
see that.
that person needed
Yeah.
that. And
Hmm.
and so I feel like you should never censor yourself or belittle yourself or water down yourself because there is somebody who needs what you are putting out.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So be yourself and always continue to be you.
That's right.
And don't try to write for everybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's
It's
it.
not for everybody.
It's
So
not. So you got to know this is where you got to stay in your lane, because this is where, I'm not saying you need to stay in your lane creativity wise,
Yes.
but you know who you are. You know your writing style. You don't
Yeah.
have to try to capture everybody's writing style. You have your own.
right.
Stay in your own lane and write the way you write. And those who appreciate your writing will appreciate your writing. And those who don't can move on. I can't tell you the countless books that I've read by other published authors that I say, this was not for me.
Yes. Yes.
Ranting and raving about this book, but it didn't do a thing for me.
Yes.
Like I don't see it.
That was
I don't see it.
That is the thing.
and it wasn't for me, right?
That's right. Right. But we support it nonetheless.
But no, even to your point, like there's some really popular children's stories that I'm like, no, I don't even want it on our shelf, but
Right.
they are extremely popular stories. And yeah, but that doesn't mean people don't love it. It just means it's not for us.
Not for you. That's it. But thank you for coming on this show. And you are such a lovely person. And I wish we would have been able to have this in person, but that's okay. I can still see your beautiful face and my co-host's beautiful face.
Oh.
I want to just thank you both for this evening. And so, any last words from anybody before we close?
So we didn't say, Tarana, where can we find your book? How do they get your book?
Okay, so right now, Wacky Zacky Bugs Out is available on Amazon. It's available on my website, which is peachypublishing.com. You can go to wackyzacky.com or peachypublishing.com. Peachy spelled with two E's, and then Peachee. And Wacky Zacky Litterbug Zapper will be available on both platforms in the spring, as well as if you're local, if you're in New Jersey. Wacky Zacky Bugs Out is also available in Barnes and Noble in Clifton, and I believe that they're gonna love Wacky Zacky Litterbug Zapper, and it will be available there too. So yeah, so those are like the three places where you can get the books.
Thank you for saying yes when I met you. I was across from you, and I was like, I'm gathering all this information. Thank you for saying yes.
Thank you for following up, because I'm not even going to tell you how many times people are like, yeah, I want to do this. And this is the first time it's happened. Let's just say that.
Well, all right, Caroline. We did.
I will say that thank you, Renee, when she was at the book,
Fair.
the author event. First of all, she wanted to know why I wasn't there. And I was like, I didn't know anything about it. But she was so good. My text was blowing up. She was just sending me authors. And it was just so amazing. I was taking them, I was writing them down. And then I sent everybody an inquiry. So I thank you for answering the inquiry.
Thank you.
The pleasure was all mine. You two are absolutely lovely, absolutely beautiful. This has been an absolute pleasure. And I thank you guys so much for this.
Oh, thank you so much. So you got to come back and see us again. This time
in person.
After Baby Rose comes, and there's a third book. So
yes. You're going to talk about that book. That absolutely. I totally love that. You're going to come back in person.
Yes, I love that. No, that would be awesome. Thank you, ladies.
Okay, so you've been listening to Author Speak on the Real Talk, Real People podcast channel. My co-host is Miss Renee Marshall McKinley, and I am Caroline Bethea-Jones. And our guest this evening was Tarana Peaches. She is the author of Wacky Zacky Bugs Out. So, if you would like to read all about Zacky Wacky's adventures, go out and buy the book. I will give you all the information in the tagline, as I always do. And please come back and join us again as we have a new author. We love y'all very, very much, and have a good evening.